Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin. I live on a main road in a kinda sketchy area. Not completely unsafe, but an area I've posted about before on here because of some of the creepy stuff that has happened to me. But this one is the creepiest. I had gone out around 6 for food. It recently snowed and my city sucks at sidewalk plowing, so it's an Arctic exhibition for a few days, walking through deep snow and ice. As I trudged through, I passed a man who lives in my neighborhood, and he can act strange. He walks oddly and can be pretty creepy at times. He passes me one way, I pass him the other, and we go separate ways. After I got my food, walking back, I thought I saw him coming my way. I quietly, out loud, said, "Oh man, not him." But then that slowly faded away. This person walked off the path towards the church that was on the street. This church has a big LED sign which you can hide behind. As I got closer, I realized it was a younger man, about my age, with a gray hoodie and beige cargo pants. He was acting strange. He walked like a Disney cartoon character, and his face had a big smile, with eyes shifting at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Then I saw as he looked at me approach, quickly pulled his hood over his head and stepped beside the sign, obstructing my view of him. I don't know if he saw me but I realized what might be going down. I just stopped on the path. From the snow, it would have been too much to turn around and head back. My boots were getting sucked into the slushy, snowy path. I waited for a few moments, and he must have realized then that I knew, because he came back out from the sign and went up to the church windows. The church is also a community center, and there's a room facing the street that kind of looks like a dance room with a large mirror. He took off his hood and started fake dancing around in front of the window. He kept looking back as if this little distraction would have been enough to end my interest in a "what the fuck is happening" situation. But it didn't. It disturbed me more. When he realized this, we made sort of a shuffle around each other. His smile disappeared, and he kept trying to inch his way towards me, but he got bogged down the same slush that I stopped in. After I got further away, I just watched as he put his hood up again and walked away normally, now towards the restaurant and mall I had just come from. This area gets stranger and stranger every day. Quite an odd title, I know, but this is the only way I can describe what she meant. This happened a few years ago, right before the pandemic hit. In fact, I know the exact date because it spooked me to my core. It was February 18th, 2020. I was 14 years old, so you can imagine this was a pretty frightening moment for a young girl. My mother, younger brother, and I went to go see a movie. He wanted to see the new Sonic film, but I really didn't want to. So I went to see the Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn. I had already seen the movie, but I wanted to enjoy the cinnamon popcorn and hot dog, and quite frankly, wanted to watch it again. I had gone off by myself to the viewing room, and it was completely empty. Just me in there, so I felt relatively safe being able to see the whole room, given I was at the very top. It was pretty amazing to have the entire room to yourself, until it's not. About halfway through the film, I went to the restroom. The soda didn't last long. So I went to the restroom, and once again, it was just me in there. Every room was in current running progress, so nobody wanted to miss the films. As I was finishing up there, an elderly woman was at the sink, about 70. I thought I was alone, but I suppose not. She was washing hands right next to me. She had moved from her original spot. Now, for context, before I say what she said to me, I'll give you a brief description of myself. I have black hair, green eyes, relatively sharp features, high cheekbones, and arched brows. Yeah, a typical Disney villain, which I somewhat blame for her response. I think I'm somewhat attractive, but nothing to lose your marbles over. She had looked at me with the most subtle but unnerving grin. Still with her hands under the water, but not doing anything, she said, "Young lady, you are quite gorgeous." I said thank you. She went on to say, "A beauty like that is only something an evil can have. Your eyes are just so hollow and soulless." She continued with that same damn smile. I was seriously starting to get creeped out, but I do live in the Bible Belt of Texas, so I chalked it up to her being a nut job. But then she got closer and said, without the smile, "You shouldn't have that beauty." I hurried and left as soon as I possibly could. I did not like being alone with that woman anymore, and I waited outside the restroom, where it was populated, but she never came out. After 5 minutes, I went back to the viewing room, and was paranoid the rest of the film. I could not get that crazy lady out of my head. Like, who says that to a kid? I seriously considered getting exorcised by a priest after that encounter. After that, I told my mother, and she didn't let me go alone until I was at least 16. Never do I want to see that woman again. I still get paranoid after that, anytime I'm alone in a public restroom. In fact, I avoid them altogether. I still don't know what to make of it. This happened years ago when I was in college. We were 4 girls living in a dorm room. So I had this roommate, Anna, that used to stay late at night outside our room at her boyfriend's, and she would always forget to lock our dorm room door. One night, at around 3 a.m., I woke up from a nightmare. I heard something like a girl screaming, only for once. But when I realized that the dorm was all quiet, I thought for sure it was just my imagination. I noticed that Anna had returned. She was in bed, and I felt a strong urge to see if the door was unlocked. So for the next few minutes, I had this internal dialogue. Go check the door. No, 'cause if I stand up, I'll lose my sleep. Eventually, my laziness won and I fell asleep. When I woke up, my roommates briefed me on what happened that night. The whole dorm was talking about it. Apparently, a stranger had entered our dorm that night. He was in his late 40s. He heard that some girls in a room were not sleeping and were loud, so he banged at their door and said something, can't remember what. After some time, thinking that he had left, one of the girls went to the bathroom. The bathroom was in the hallway. As she was locked inside, he tried to break open the door. This was happening on the same floor where I lived, so probably that's when I heard the scream. Luckily, another girl saved her when she called police and he got scared and ran away. But that's not all. Before he tried to assault the girl, he had been in the study room and vandalized it. He pooped on the floor, ripped a blouse that was on the chair, and did other stuff in there, made the study room a mess. The study room was right next to my room. And guess what? That night we slept with our door unlocked. Just like you folks always say in here. Always trust your gut. I should have trusted mine and checked the door. Thank God he didn't try our door. A few days later, I heard that the police found the guy. He was obviously mentally ill, and I heard he was free. After this event, they increased the level of dorm security. Let's start this off by saying I usually don't believe in many things. I like science, and thus I like explanation. I like things making sense. Werewolves, vampires, Bigfoot make no such sense. They can't be logical, so why believe in a fairy tale? I guess this is my own karma for not letting my mind open wider. It was a Saturday. I live in the South, so it's a bit cold, not uncomfortable. There is a nice breeze, but wearing a jacket wouldn't be too bad. You'll see why I added this later. I was alone at home and bored. My boyfriend was out of town, and my other friends have work. I work from home, and as of that moment, nothing was going on. I decided it would be motivating, I guess, to go for a walk in the trail behind my house. It was a nice day, and the trees were pretty to look at. Now, my boyfriend doesn't like me going out alone. Not because he is controlling. No, he's a sweetheart. But because he is worried about me. He always claims that the woods watch you, I swear. Blah, blah, of course. I didn't believe him because that is completely stupid. So I get my shoes on, throw on a thin jacket, and leave. I wanted the fresh air and the nice quiet the woods gave. And that I got. It was a calm walk. About a half hour in, though, I started to hear the crunching of leaves. I dismissed it as a deer or a fox. They are very common in my area, so I felt no worried or anxious feelings. A good maybe 10 minutes of walking later, I did see a deer. However, this deer was not what I was expecting. Right there, just right on the trail, was a dead deer. I honestly don't even think dead helps describe it enough. The thing was slaughtered. It looked like it had been sliced up the stomach to its neck. Its guts were just spilling out of it. Its head almost seemed to have been snapped. One of its legs were missing, and blood covered the ground around it. The smell hit me harder than the general shock of it. It smelled completely horrid. Not even that of, well, something dead. It smelled like rotting flesh, and even wet dog, if that makes sense. I said rotting flesh, but the kill looked fresh. It didn't touch it, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it was still hot. I decided that it was definitely enough. I walked for about an hour anyway. Time to head back. I just backed away from the deer and swiftly started to head back, not wanting whatever killed it to come back and take it away to eat while I was nearby. Everything seemed calm and nice until I heard the sound of crunching leaves again. I swear I felt eyes drilling a hole into me. I looked around, but nothing at all. So why did I hear leaves? It sounded close, as if it was just a few feet away. This caused me to speed up more. Now I could see my house at the end of the trail. Sighing in relief, I slumped my shoulders and relaxed. As I stepped off the trail and into my backyard, that's when I heard it, a low growl. I was on my back porch. I froze. I turned to look back at the noise, and there it was. A wolf. Okay, well, thank goodness. Now my damn worries were answered. Well, not really. There aren't wolves where I live, so I was confused. It was just staring at me. It had no threatening stance, no odd posture. It just stared at me with unblinking eyes. I mean, it was as if a taxidermy piece. The only thing that moved even slightly was its head to follow me. I was backing up to make my way to the door. I touched the handle and shook my head. Maybe it was just someone's lost dog. That's when I saw it. It's breathing. I saw a cloud of breath leave its nose, as if it was in the winter. This brought me to further confusion. But that confusion quickly turned to complete fear as I watched this wolf, this thing, I guess, stand up on its back legs, his head not moving as it just stared at me, unblinking. I still remember those vivid blue eyes. I stumbled to the open door and quickly shut it and locked it behind me. I closed the blinds because hell no, I was not gonna let that thing look at me. After a few moments, I brought up the courage to inch my way over and peek out the blinds. It was gone. Good. I stayed in the living room until my boyfriend got home. Let's just say I did get sympathy from the story. He believed me, which relaxed my mind. He even said he had some odd experiences himself with the odd wolf. However, the one thing he did say was a good, "I told you so." Yeah, I shouldn't have went alone. I know that now. I don't know what I saw, but I haven't seen it since then. It's been a few weeks now. I still fear it though. Those eyes and how motionless it was. It still sees me in my dreams. It was April of 2008. I was 20 and living in Denver for a year-long work contract with a nonprofit in Boulder. My girlfriend, now wife, and my best friend Tim drove to Colorado from our home state to visit me for my 21st birthday. The nonprofit I was working for housed their workers in dorm rooms, and drinking was not allowed on site, nor were visitors allowed to stay overnight. So I booked a hotel room in downtown Denver for the weekend where we could drink in honor of my 21st. The hotel was big, very nice, and in a safe central area of the city. So nice, in fact, that it was the same hotel that most of the politicians would later stay at during the DNC convention of '08 that took place in Denver later that summer. My wife and Tim arrived Saturday morning, and we all met up at the hotel. The day was fantastic. We drank across the city for most of the day. By 1 a.m., we got back to the hotel. The room was typical, with 2 queen beds. Bed number 1 was close to a big window looking out across the city. Bed number 2 was pushed against the wall with a door that opened to the bathroom. You couldn't see the door or entryway to our rooms unless you were at the foot of bed number 1. We drank more and chatted in the room until about 4 a.m. My wife was laying at the head of bed number 2, flipping through the TV. Tim and I were seated at the foot of bed number 1, staring out the window as we talked. As we talked, I heard some movement and the sound of a door opening. Without looking away from the window, I assumed it was my wife getting up to use the bathroom. A few minutes passed by, and I thought I heard movement again, so I finally turned around to look. I saw my wife still lounging in bed number 2 as she had been. "Did you get up a few minutes ago to use the bathroom?" I asked her. "No," she replied. "I thought I heard a door," I said back to her, with her just looking confused back at me. "Yeah, I thought I heard that too," Tim said, breaking his own gaze from the window. It was then I started to run cold and sobered up pretty quick. Very softly I heard Tim say, "I think there's someone in our room." I lurched forward from the foot of the bed to look into the pitch black entryway. I could barely make it out, and I wanted to believe I wasn't seeing it, but there was a man dressed in all black with a black baseball cap pressed into the 90-degree corner of the entryway where the room door and wall met. Absolute silence fell on the room, and it felt like hours passed by as I started to panic in my mind, like no way I have ever been in my entire life. We all knew. We knew we weren't alone, and we hadn't been for a while, and he knew we spotted him. Eventually, Tim got the courage to meekly speak in the direction of the entryway and said, "Hey man, is there something we can help you with?" Another period of silence that felt like an eternity went by. He slumped off the edge of the wall and in a little into the light and made contact with Tim and I. We all just stared at each other. Then eventually he spoke up and said, "Is this room 1709? "No, man, it's not," Tim said, stroking his beard nervously. He stared at us for a while longer, raised his eyebrows and shaking his head. Then he turned around and left. We then erupted into a million curse words and paced around the room. I called the front desk. They told me that he was drunk and they found him in the stairwell, but directed him back to the right room. Minutes later, Tim called the front desk and they told him he was not a guest. He was apprehended in the stairwell and taken into police custody. Then, a while later, they told my wife he disappeared and they had no idea who he was or what he was doing. They told her there wasn't even a room 1709 in the hotel. We got 3 different stories. We still have no idea what that was all about, or how he managed to get a key card to our room. We were sure the door was closed. It was easily the most terrifying moment of my life. Always use the latch in hotel rooms. We got the stay refunded and about $200 in credit for food from the hotel. We should have sued, but we were young and dumb. Hello, spooky friends and family. It is the Queen of Panic here. Thank you for watching as always, but I wanted to go ahead and take a moment to thank those from Reddit that we did get these stories from today. I'm going to go ahead and put them on screen to thank them properly and give them the credit that they deserve. And I hope you guys liked this version of video. I am going to do much more of these, put little compilations together, and of course have the little singular ones that we do as well. But I do want to say that this is going to be a recurring thing on the channel, and if you have any kind of stories that you'd like to, submit, we do have a Reddit that you can go ahead and see in the description and submit your own stories. If you know me personally, you can send them to any form of reaching me, of course. But please add your stories. Let's go ahead and get them narrated. And, as always, thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.